start at 6 o'clock, folks, to open our meeting. We are Zooming live tonight, so out of respect and timing for our folks at home, we will start at 6 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order, so about another minute or so. Actually, it is 6 o'clock. So we will call to order this special session. I think this is a legislative hearing session for the Randolph County Board of Commissioners. We are here tonight to hear an appeal of a decision made by the Randolph County Planning Board relative to the rezoning of a tract of property up in the Cedar Square area. So we call our meeting to order. We thank all of you that are here tonight in person to join our meeting, and as always, our folks at home, we welcome you to our meeting tonight also, and thank you for your attention and interest in the business of our county. So with that, first of all, I'm going to ask Ben Morgan, our attorney, to sort of advise the board on what our duties are relative to an appeal and how we are sitting tonight in a legal matter.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Fry. I believe this is the second, I think it's the second appeal that this board has heard since we've changed the process in which we go about this. Obviously, tonight, you're hearing a trial de novo case, and what that means, it's anew. And so any evidence, and I say this as much for the board as I say to the members of the audience here, it is a fresh case. You start over. Any evidence that was presented at the previous case, none of the parties should rely on that information, both the applicant and the people and anyone in opposition to that, if they need to present that evidence, because this board, you're hearing all the evidence anew, and it's just like starting again. And then obviously, it's just like you used to hear the cases from a rezoning standpoint. You'll make the decision based on the same information that's provided. You'll vote, and then that's it. Do any of you have any specific questions about the process? Or
Any commissioner have a question? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Ben. So we will call on Jay Dale, our planning director, to present the case to us tonight.
Yes, sir. Chairman Fry, members of the board, good evening. This evening we'll be rehearing the request of Mrs. Tanya Cook. Mrs. Cook was heard by the Randolph County Planning Board on July the 7th, and she was requesting that 4 acres on the, well, let's see here, find exactly where I'm at, on Cedar Square Road be rezoned to HCCD, Highway Commercial Conditional District, for a proposed contractor's yard for hauling. There'll be a subcontractor to A Savant, which is roughly 3/4 of a mile up the road, is their primary function. It is just a parking lot. They will not be storing any fuels there, so there will be no tanks full of petroleums. Their hours of operation, as they explained, would be that they would be starting up at 6 in the morning. The trucks leave. There's not really any in and out traffic all day long. They return at 6 p.m. It's 8 trucks. They will have 8 employees. They do want to put up a 20 by 40 building, which would serve primarily as an office, and I believe they'll have a bathroom there, in case the drivers need that. The topography of the property is such that when you pull up, it goes up a little bit and then it drops off. The point being is it would be very difficult to see this from the road. In fact, the last time I visited there, I was surprised by a pickup truck when I got up to the top of the hill and started down the other side to the request location. Can we click to the next picture? Here's the dot map, as we call it, showing the request location and the surrounding area. Next picture, please. We have a site plan of the request showing where they're going to be parking up front. Next one, please. Aerial, once again, showing the location and the adjoining farm properties. And the last one, please. And the photographs of the site. The planning board heard all of this in light of the fact that it seemed like it was going to be fairly low impact, and that Ace Avant Concrete was less than a mile up the road, which operates many trucks. They did vote unanimously to approve this request.
These are not new jobs, I mean, they're moving here
Yes, sir.
from the Jamestown business, is that correct?
Yes, sir. They wanted to be closer to Ace Avant to better serve them, as I understood.
Did they drive exclusively for Ace Avant?
Not exclusively, I don't believe, though that is their primary function as I understood it, but I'm sure they can explain that better than I can.
So if I understood correctly, the trucks leave empty and they return empty?
That's as I understand.
There's nothing on...
There's no piles there or anything like that. It's a parking
They're
lot.
not hauling anything from that site?
No, ma'am.
Other questions of Jay?
I just had some general questions just about how it lays on the land there and everything.
There is a bit of a slope to it. When you come up the drive, it then starts to drop pretty drastically back from that. So as I said, the last time I was there was somebody with a truck there, and I met them as I came over going to look at the site. I couldn't see them from the road. I didn't know they were there, so.
I'll wait until whoever's making the
Sure.
request, I'll just ask them about how it lays. I went up there and looked at it, but I was just going to ask them how.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions specifically for Jay?
I guess one question, any driveway permits or anything like that required DOT? I mean, that's
I mean, they would have to satisfy
what it is, yeah.
the DOT, but the site distances there are pretty good. I can't imagine they would turn it down for anything.
Okay. I didn't know if there's an issue with that, then the thing kind of goes away, because that's all, the entrance is basically the whole front of the property for the most part.
Yeah, but like I said, if they put tile in or something, I'm sure they'd contact the DOT to make sure it was located to suit them.
Right, okay, thank you.
The site distance appeared to be fine to me. I would say there's some weeds there, and those weeds, and then, they'll have to...
It's currently
know
vacant,
if
yeah.
this goes through, but as far as actually being able to see in both directions, I didn't see a problem with that.
But as far as the road, it's really not much more than a driveway.
That's basically what you're
I'm
looking
reading
at.
it right, it's about 79 feet,
Yeah,
I'd say
actually
that's-
on the road.
the road frontage is basically the driveway.
Driveway, right.
Yes.
I mean, and that is the width of the property. I know, like, when I was up there, does it go from that fence on the Davis side? There's like an existing fence there?
As I understand it, but I'll let them answer that. I mean, I've not measured to see if his fence is set back, so I can't say for sure that it's right on the property line.
All right.
Anything else? All right. Ms. Cook, do you have anything that you would like to say here tonight? Just please state your name so we can properly add this to our minutes.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, I work
Take that down while you talk.
I work primarily for Ace Avant. My business is not the only business on that road, and I'm a little bit hearing impaired. Can I let Charles talk? He dispatches for me. He can answer the questions better.
Okay.
Yes, my name's Charles
Please
Bailey.
state your name, Charles.
Charles Bailey.
Bailey.
Yes.
Okay.
And with Tomcat Trucking. But it's just parking 8 trucks there, and it's 450 feet off the road back to where we want to put the building, and some of them will be parked on the side of it, and probably 6 in front of the building.
Did I understand that there would be a gate?
Yes, there'll be a gate up about 275 feet. There's like a circle
Right,
there.
right, saw
But
that.
right before it, we're going to put the gate there. That way nobody, as they come in, will affect traffic to open the gate or nothing on the roadway.
How far back is the building supposed to be?
It's going to be 450 feet off the
So it's
roadway.
behind the little circle?
Yeah, it's behind it. There's some pine trees there. It's gonna sit behind them.
Okay.
That's what I was getting at, the specifics of, so, because I drove up there and looked at it and drove out there, and it was, so,
Okay.
out there where it's gravel now, everything will be beyond that?
Behind it.
All right.
That was just put there to we get settled. The rest of that milling and stuff goes down to park on.
Okay, all right.
How long have you been in business? How long have you been doing this?
10, a little over 10 years.
10 years?
When the trucks leave the property, will they all go the same direction?
I'm gonna say 95% of the time, yes, because they'll be hitting the 311 bypass,
Right.
which will,
That's what I said.
sometimes they'll be going to 220 down Candor. For the most part, I would say yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank you.
And on the entrance there, it's 100 feet, and that fence that's sitting on the side there,
Yep.
part of that is on the Tomcat's side, and the other side, and we've had no problem with them. We've talked to them and everything. Everybody's fine there.
Yeah,
Have you already been parking trucks there for a little while?
Park one there every now and then sometimes, and he'll leave his pickup there. But if it's raining or something where he parks it, he has to take it there because he can't get out. It'll get stuck where he puts it.
Okay. Do you have something else?
yes, the people that are on the right side of me and the left side of me, my neighbors, I asked them if I could do that, and they were fine with it. They're the ones that join my property.
How long have you owned that property?
2 or 3 years?
Okay.
I don't know exactly. It's either 2 or 3.
Any other questions?
Will the drive be gravel or?
What you see there, the millings, you know, it's on it now.
Yes.
If we add anything, it'll be just 57 stone.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else tonight who wishes to speak in support of this request? All right. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the request? Please come forward and state your name.
Hi, my name's Leona Tomlinson, and I live directly across from that driveway in that White House.
Okay.
I'd like to thank the board tonight for hearing us. I'm confused about the owner of the property because on the letter it says Virginia Crampford is the property owner. So who is the property owner? Tomcat Trucking has been in business since 2010, and we're hearing a lot about the 8 dump trucks, but Tomcat Trucking also runs 9 flatbed trucks that haul lumber, and I've got a copy of the website on that. They're not saying anything about those flatbeds. The 800 square foot building she wants to build will be large enough to pull a dump truck in and do maintenance work. If they just need a traffic office, 400 square feet would be large enough for a bathroom, desk, printer, and storage for office supplies. I ran a traffic office for a Lowe's Home Improvement lumberyard for 13 years, so I know this. During my time managing the traffic office, I experienced 2 occasions where trucks had fuel spills on the yard. Most of the fuel remained on the pavement, but some emptied onto the soil. The EPA had Lowe's remove the contaminated soil and properly dispose of it. There's a creek on this property in question that is less than a quarter mile from Randleman Lake. The creek ends at one side of Elmer Beeson Road, and on the other side is Randleman Lake, and the creek flows directly into that. And every weekend we see fishing boats in this cove, and it's a favorite fishing spot. It would be a disaster if fuel or other contaminants poured into the creek and then into the lake. Over the years, Randolph County has tightly limited the use of our land within the 1/2 mile Randleman Lake radius. But for some reason now, a trucking terminal has been approved to locate this close to the lake. Please consider getting the EPA to look into the proximity of this creek to the lake before you let a trucking terminal build on the property. I would also like to bring up our road issues. This is a farming community with narrow roads and low banks. I know that Ms. Cook implied that she would only be running dump trucks out of the site, but what if one of her flatbed drivers needed to drop his trailer for the night and bobtail out? It would be very tempting to drop on Cedar Square Road. Over the last few months, I have seen a few trucks bobtail out from this property. Like I said, I live right across the road, and that bothers me. Because like they were saying, you can't see anything going on over there. If something goes wrong, this proposal may end up costing Randolph County a lot of money. Darrell Farwell owns a parcel of land on Cedar Square Road. The county has been battling him for years over all the junk he dumps on that land. A little has been done to make him clean up the property, but it's still a mess. It is like the county cannot do much about it. He has never had a permit to dump on this property. The reason I'm bringing this up, Virginia Cranford is the property owner of the proposed site of this trucking company. Virginia's brother, Charles Tomlinson, owned this property before he died. In the late 80s, Charles and Virginia's other brother, Robert Davis, hauled almost 80 junk cars onto this property. It took the county forever to get that mess cleaned up, and I'm sure Hal Johnson would remember that. I worry that this trucking terminal has the potential of starting some of that same thing. I know that at July meeting it was stated that people owning the trucking company talked with the neighbors. They only spoke with Jerome Davis, whose land is on the side of the property, and the people on the other side of the property, which is owned by Virginia Cranford's family, her sister-in-law and her son. So, of course, it was all right with them. And Jerome feels like he can't do much because his fence is on that property. I'm just asking the board to please think about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomason. Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak tonight? Yes, sir. Come forward and give your name.
My name is Colin Tomlinson. I'm the one who submitted the appeal. The property in that area is primarily rural agriculture. Most of the folks off of Cedar Square Road raise cattle or grow tobacco or corn or other crops in the area. Reading through rezoning rights, I was under the impression that there was a rural business overlay district that was designed for compatible land development for the rural areas. We don't have anything larger on Cedar Square Road than livestock trailers or the such. There's also a lot of tractors that use the road for traffic, and it's a known bicycling path for the area. There's also the watershed protection and water critical area section that I believe for business rezoning restricts certain businesses within a half mile of a watershed, and Randleman Lake is within, I believe, a quarter of a mile of the proposed rezoning area. I talked to the Randolph County Tax Department as well as the loan officer for my mortgage at my bank. The Randolph County Tax Department assured me that property tax would not increase or decrease with the rezoning of the property. However, Randolph County Tax and my loan officer has told me that property value has a potential for decreasing if this is rezoned in a business instead of a rural agricultural area. Also, I believe in the rezoning, there is a section of affecting for safety of surrounding agricultural or rural areas. Ms. Cook states that she doesn't plan to store chemicals or anything on her property, but being such frequent traffic of 8 or more dump trucks, there's a potential for contamination in the creek as well as neighboring properties. For Jerome Davis raises cattle directly to the side of her property is where he keeps his young cattle as soon as they're taken away from their mothers. So there's a concern there with most of the neighbors. She states that she spoke to 2 neighbors, but with everyone here this evening as well, there's at least 13 neighbors within the area of the street that she has not spoken to. And most of us remained unaware of the rezoning until 1 to 3 days prior to the original rezoning hearing. So my concern is that we weren't properly notified originally, as well as the safety concerns that arise from it. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to speak tonight?
Hi, I'm Kirby Mizzou. I live directly in front of the large farmhouse, which is on in between the cattle. I live at my grandma's farm, and I'm actually currently building a house on the other side of the road across from them. My husband and I are building. But besides the fact of what they've already stated today, what's biggest for my concern is safety. When doing weed eating, because I weed eat myself over there at the farm, people do not do 45 on that road. That road is a very dangerous road. They never do the speed limit. So for me, myself, being out there and having to be on the road, there is a part that's a blind spot right there in front of our house, which is right where they will be turning in. If they were to slow down, you come right up on them, and then it's just dangerous altogether if you're having to do anything out there at the road. Just like Colin had said, the cyclists, there's probably a dozen cyclists every day that go on that road, and I worry that someone's going to get hit there trying to go around them or the dump truck. My biggest concern is just safety, and that I don't know if you've ever physically been out there either, but if you're standing in that driveway and you're going to pull out, there's a blind spot to the left, and if someone is speeding up on you and a slow tractor is pulling out, you're going to be right up on them, and I just worry that there's going to cause a collision there. So safety is my biggest concern.
Thank you, Kirby. Anyone else who wishes to speak tonight? Sir.
Yeah, I'm John Nerney. I live across the road, just a little ways down on my mother's farm. I built a house a couple of years ago. I grew up there on the farm, and my main concern is the property values might be impacted. I just had my property appraised, and it's a significant amount, and I just don't want to see the property value go down. So I just wanted to restate that.
Okay, thank you, John.
Did we get his address? Sir, can we get your address? I think we got.
My address is...
Got that? You'll get that there? Okay, that's great.
She'll get it.
Just put it in the record.
You'll just add it on the side.
Just put it in the record. That's fine. Anyone else who wishes to speak tonight? Then, hearing or seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Jay, I'd like you to come back. I got, I know on the technical definition of the rezoning is to highway commercial conditional district.
Yes, sir.
So what does conditional district allow or not allow?
In this case, the conditions would be what the applicant stated in public hearing, the size of the building, the parking area. We would hold them to that. They wouldn't be able to expand beyond that without having to see the board again.
And they can't add the gas tanks or fuel tanks and those things without going through this process again?
Yes, sir. That's correct. They would have to come through this process again to do that.
Does that include the number of trucks going in and out and the kinds of trucks?
Yes, sir. We would hold them to 8. If they got truck number 9, I would be giving them a call.
And they would have to be dump trucks?
That's what we have here. That's what we expect to be there. If the applicant wants to do something different,
that's the reason I was asking about
now.
Conditional use does carry conditions with it
Yes, sir.
that can be enforced.
Yes, sir.
To make it plain, when
Yes.
the other folks were talking about the flatbeds, it would not involve flatbeds at all. It had to be dump trucks.
Dump trucks is what was presented to the planning board. Dump trucks is what they approved. They never spoke of any flatbeds, so that was not in the request.
I think we're okay, Charles. The impervious surface or the relationship to the Randolph Lake, is it in the critical area? Do we have an issue with impervious surface?
They're not within the watershed or the critical area, and as this board well knows, even if they had been in Randolph Lake's watershed, you are allowed to develop somewhat in there. It's just you're not allowed to exceed a certain amount of impervious surface. In fact, A Savant, in the back of their property, is within that area, and they were very professional, and we had that worked out. But they are not, that's not a concern. The creek, the only thing the state would request us do there is to keep 50-foot buffer on either side of the creek. They're not going to be anywhere near it. This board probably knows that we've been audited on the Randolph Lake watershed extensively one time and a couple of times since. We always pass with flying colors. The state is always very proud of this board and the job they do. We exceed the requirements for that sort of thing.
There is a required buffer to the creek.
They do ask us to keep that 50-foot no-cut buffer, and we do mandate that, yes, sir.
Right. Now, did we have the neighborhood meeting with this request?
We did not have a neighborhood information meeting. That's usually reserved for subdivision development. That's when I have neighborhood information meetings.
So there was no notifications that went out?
The notification went out as the law requires. We sent the mailings, we put the sign out front.
How far did the mailings, adjoining or?
The adjoining property owners are the ones that are notified. Okay. By law, that's what's required. Yes, sir.
And they were notified in writing?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Jay?
If you go back to the, I think a couple slides before this one, I don't know who's, can you? There, that's it, that's good. Right there, back. So that right there, that's the approved site plan?
That is the approved site plan, yes, sir.
And so just to reiterate, I guess, what a couple of commissioners asked, that's what's developed on that property per this, and anything else, because obviously most of the land is behind where they're developing. Any future development has to come through this same
yes, sir.
process.
Right. And the size of that building, again, I think it's 20 by 40. 20 by 40,
That's what they've
I guess,
requested.
metal type building.
That was my understanding.
And they'll have to have a building permit,
Yes, sir.
which would include the plans of...
The engineered drawings and all that, yes, sir.
You'll have to pardon me, the speed limit on that road?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I'll assume it's 45. I don't really know.
I think it's 40.
I was wanting to make sure that, I think it is 45, but I couldn't remember exactly.
I think it is all the way to the square.
Okay.
And it's, I think too, Ace Avant has been a good business client and of our community.
They have. I've had no
Long time.
complaints. So
We've had no violations, no issues with them.
That's correct.
I know there's not a direct ownership, or there doesn't appear to be, but, and I did have, Ms. Cook stated that she'd owned that property for 2 or 3 years, but your memo to this board says that it's owned by Virginia Cranford.
And that's who we had as the property owner, and you know, per usual, we contacted Ms. Cranford, and I don't have that letter with me, but the property owner was fine with the rezoning request. We always get that from them before we run it before the board.
Is this, your ownership dependent on this rezoning? You don't actually own or have a deed to the property, is that correct? And your decision to buy the property is dependent upon this rezoning? You have already bought the property? Okay. All right.
Well, let's ask the question then, how did you have a different?
Sometimes there's a lag in the amount of time this is actually keyed into the system at the tax department. I mean, I've seen properties be in the wrong name for as long as 3 to 6 months.
Did the lady, did you get it from the tax department, or where did you get your information?
This is the notice from the Department of Planning and Development.
From us.
Meeting, and here in the bottom of that paragraph, it says property owner Virginia Cranford.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to when I asked the question on that. Yep.
That Virginia Cranford owned the property.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Ms. Cook as the applicant. But like I said, we get our information from the tax department, and it's evidently not been updated yet.
So, Ms. Cook, have you acquired this property legally since this process started? Before?
So it just hasn't been changed?
I don't know.
Yes, ma'am.
With the COVID-19, folks are working from home, I mean, there might be some drag in
There's
getting
some lag
things
time.
updated, I don't know.
It's not that unusual.
But,
You know what the address is?
There's a GIS information on the address,
You don't, yeah.
purchased in what May of...
Oh, you got it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, just for public,
Yeah,
we pulled up GIS, and it's 5/31/2018, is that the purchase date about?
Wow.
About the end, yeah.
so she's owned it since
she-
May of 2018.
Okay.
A little over 2 years.
4162 Kivett Drive, Jamestown?
We'll check with that tomorrow. I don't know why it came up in our system as the other one being the property owner, but we just glean it from the tax department information that we have at the time of application.
That's on our GIS, that she's owned that property since May of 2018.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. And I would just make a comment that as the board considers this request, you know, our planning board went through this process, heard the evidence and approved it. And the planning board includes a member that lives in this community. Mr. Kemp Davis is a member of our planning board. So I guess my point is that your area has representation on the planning board that has vetted this and made a decision, and we're here tonight, as the attorney has stated, to hear the appeal of the decision of the planning board.
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, I believe we need to state what that decision was. As
Yeah,
far as,
and that planning board voted unanimously.
Yes, sir.
There was not a single negative vote, but they voted unanimously to approve the request.
Yes, sir.
And again, that included Mr. Davis, who serves on the Planning and Zoning Board from the Cedar Square community.
Yes, sir.
And I do think, and if you followed the questioning, there is conditions that's followed. And if those conditions aren't met, we'll be right back doing this again. Correct. Or the planning board will. So there are conditions that's been set for them that they, by the conditional district, there's a reason for the question, that's the conditions that these folks accept if they go forward with this. And I think, too, as Commissioner Haywood mentioned at the start of this meeting, this is not continuous truck traffic all day long. It's they leave in the morning and they come back in the afternoon. So, but that's just some issues that I've considered and that the board has, and you followed the questioning here tonight. So I'm going to stop and go to the board, and if you have any more questions or entertain a motion on how to move forward with the request for the appeal of the planning board decision that we're here to discuss tonight.
for one thing, Mr. Chairman, I think the folks out here need to make sure that they understand that these conditions are put on there and they will have to be followed this way.
Yeah, that's what I said, and they'll have to come back and go through, reapply as if they were starting from scratch if they want to do anything different. And that's the best or the most important thing relative to the questions and issues that we've heard that's been raised here tonight. So it's to the board.
I would just like to say that it's always, for me, it's always a kind of a tricky issue, balancing what people are allowed to do with their property against, the people around them, the needs of businesses to provide services and to get what they need, those businesses enable us to, they pay taxes too, and so they help keep those property taxes down on the rest of us. That doesn't mean that they're more valuable than our citizens, not at all, but at the same time, if I think about 8 trucks sitting back off the road during the night, leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning, coming back at 6, for the most part going right back toward 311, it's not ideal. It's a heck of a lot better than the logging trucks that go in and out of my neighborhood all day, every day, until dark. Granted, it's not forever, but it did go on for months. And that gets to be old. But I think that you have every right to hold them to. If we go forward with this, I think you have every right. You're well within your rights to hold them to this. You've heard this discussion, and you know what those conditions are. And you are well within your rights to make those calls to us commissioners or to send emails if you see that these conditions are not being followed. But as it stands, I think it's a reasonable request. So
Is that a motion?
I'll be glad to make the motion. So do I make the motion to approve the rezoning or to deny the appeal?
We vote to,
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to approve the rezoning of this property from residential agricultural to highway commercial conditional district.
okay. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Further discussion on the part of this board? Further questions or discussion?
Just had a quick question on the trucks. Where are they currently housed?
Jamestown, I believe, is where the business is currently located. Is that correct?
So does that mean, since they're going to be housed in Randolph County, they would become Randolph County property?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make that clear.
Yep. There will be some improvements to that property which will add to its value, which will increase tax revenues.
Gotcha.
Further discussion? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And it's approved. Thank all of you for being a part of this process. Those of you that are in the audience tonight, those folks that are at home watching this, and it will be on, I think, YouTube and, what's the other one, Sarah?
Facebook.
Facebook. So, any other business to come before this board tonight? We have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank all of you again for being here. Be safe. That little Kirby used to babysit my kids. Really?